And one of these must-win races is in Pennsylvania. And Dave McCormick is the Republican candidate for Senate in the great Commonwealth. Dave, great to talk to you again.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. I don't want to say I'm worried, but it's different. The polls are different when it comes. You look at a lot of these states, the presidential race, Trump's winning in Pennsylvania by whatever, a bunch, and then you look at, and the same with Wisconsin and Arizona and whatever. But then you look at some of the down-ticket Senate races, and you're like, wait a second, why are the Republicans losing in the Senate race? It doesn't make any sense to me. How's it looking in Pennsylvania for you?
You know, I think it looks good, but that's a phenomenon we've seen. It's always the case, and what you have is you have President Trump and Kamala Harris who have 100% name ID, and you have challengers that are building momentum. And in all cases, in my case certainly, you see those polls closing, the more people get to know who the candidate is, in this case me. And so I feel good about the momentum. And here's the reality. What we now have with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket is the most liberal nominee in history. And so when we talk to Pennsylvanians about banning fracking, eliminating private health insurance, legalizing illegal immigration, having mandatory buybacks of guns, these issues, these California liberal issues, which Kamala Harris advocates in her own words, and Bob Casey votes with her 98% of the time. That contrast, I think, is a great contrast. The other thing is, you say, is Pennsylvania is ground zero. So it's going to be the most watched state, the most money, and there's going to be a great opportunity for me to create that contrast with Bob Casey, who's, a career politician and been a rubber stamp for Biden-Harris.
I want to talk about all these issues, but one last on the campaign deal. It's frustrating to me. I'm not even running. The power of name recognition.
Yeah.
And how that can trump all sanity. And Bob Casey's got, his dad was the governor. Can you speak to how irrationally important and frustratingly important name recognition is?
Yeah, it certainly helps at the start of the campaign for him because everybody knows him. But the problem with Bob Casey is that 70% of Pennsylvanians can't name a single thing he's done. And so, it's not a small thing. I certainly acknowledge that. But the key here is to make sure that Pennsylvania voters understand that in a time of crisis, in a time where we need leadership, their senator, who's been around for 30 years in public office, he's received $4 million of taxpayer compensation of the taxpayers of Pennsylvania and the federal government, and he has delivered virtually nothing and has voted 98% of the time. So, listen, this is part of running for office and running as someone who wants to bring about change. And the thing that I say on the campaign trail is, listen, 80% of Pennsylvanians think the country's going in the wrong direction. If you want the status quo, if you think we're okay, then vote for Bob Casey. If you want change and someone who doesn't owe anybody anything is going to fight for Pennsylvanians, I'm your guy. And that message seems to be resonating.
Here is the fracking issue. Here's Bob Casey asked in the halls of Congress.
She very clearly, the first time she ran for president, said she wants to ban fracking. Now she's reversed it when she needs to win your state.
She's the vice president in an administration that has contributed greatly to our development of new energy sources.
What does that answer?
What does that mean?
What is fracking in Pennsylvania?
Fracking is and natural gas is the future of Pennsylvania. We have the fourth largest natural gas reserves in the world. Hundreds of thousands of energy jobs. These are great paying jobs for young people.
Who does? You say we have the what was that sentence? Were you talking about Pennsylvania itself?
Yeah, Pennsylvania, fourth largest natural gas reserve in the world. Right?
Just the state of Pennsylvania.
If we were a country, we'd be the fourth largest. I'm not exaggerating. We've got the equivalent of Saudi Arabia in natural gas terms under our feet. And the key is to be able to get it out of the ground and then have pipeline capacity or offshore capacity in terms of export facility where we can get it to other states and to the world. And Bob Casey stood in the way of this. Bob Casey supported the elimination of the Keystone Pipeline. Bob Casey has been for the EPA mandates. Bob Casey has not been a champion for our natural gas industry. And now we have Kamala Harris, who's standing up and saying, we need to ban fracking, and saying it over and over again, and now having this conversion as she's trying to run for president. The reason that's so important is if you look around the country, you have all these states that are on fire, growing. The governor of Oklahoma came to campaign with me a couple weeks ago. Oklahoma's doing great. Pennsylvania's having lots of challenges. And part of the reason is we can't take advantage of this incredible resource we have right under our feet. And I'll say a final word. It's not only great for Pennsylvania's economy, it's great for our national security, and it's great for the environment, because that beautiful, clean natural gas can be exported around the world, and it replaces coal-fired plants in India and China, which are the main driver of carbon emissions. So I don't understand it, but the Democrats have been hijacked by the radical environmentalists, and they've put trillions of dollars into subsidies for solar panels and electric vehicles at the expense of our natural gas industry, which is such a driver of opportunity.
I remember when it first clicked, one of those like weird moments when I learned that Pennsylvania had a ton of oil, because the companies are called Pennzoil and Quaker State.
Right.
And you're like, oh,
makes
weird.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oil was oil was first discovered in Titusville in Pennsylvania. I mean, Pennsylvania is an incredible energy state, and the other thing about it is that it's located within 500 miles of 65% of the population of the United States. So we not only have these great energy capabilities, but we have proximity to get to consumers. We just aren't taking advantage of it, and it's a huge problem.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I used to live in upstate New York, and there was the Marcellus oil shale, and so I remember growing up with a lot of these yard signs all over saying no to the shale, no to the frack, whatever. And it really got hijacked early and branded early by the environmentalists, right? As this is bad for the environment because it'll like affect the water table or whatever. Yeah. Is that still like the argument against fracking?
It's part of the argument. The other argument is carbon emissions. And listen, I visited probably a dozen fracking rigs in various stages. What's happened now is you have incredible advances in technology. So when you do fracking, it's got a very small footprint. You can do it in the middle of a farm and just a very small pad when they're done, and you can hardly see any environmental impact. They've got great technology that is able to make sure there's not methane escaping, and there's an enormous effort and lots of technology to make sure the water table is not touched. So it's environmentally very friendly, and of course the companies have a huge incentive to do this well because they're there for decades, and they're fracking on land that they're often leasing from farmers and people that are landowners, and they get the royalties. And of course, they want the absolute protection. So it's very environmentally sound. And then, of course, it reduces carbon emissions because it's a relatively clean source of energy. So instead of subsidizing EVs and subsidizing solar panels, which make us more dependent on China, if we developed our own natural gas industry without subsidies, it'd be better for our economy and make us less dependent on China.
Man, it's such a no-brainer. We're talking to Dave McCormick. He's running for Senate in Pennsylvania against Bob Casey. So I remember this at the very end of the last 2020 election. This was the issue that came up, and it was at a debate, and Biden's like, no, I never said ban fracking. And Trump was like, what? The next couple of weeks, all they did was play all the clips of him saying, I want to ban fracking, and still lost Pennsylvania or whatever, right? But why is all of Western Pennsylvania not crazy in support of fracking, Donald Trump, and Dave McCormick?
Well,
I
think they will be supportive, but we got to fight through the media. I mean, look what's happening already. I ran this commercial within a day or two of Bob Casey endorsing Kamala Harris, and it's solely in Bob Casey's words and Kamala Harris's words about her extreme positions on everything from immigration to fracking and so forth, over and over again. And that commercial got 6 million views. But what you're seeing is the media is systematically allowing her to reverse her positions, which are completely out of step with the people of Pennsylvania. So you're fighting through this liberal media that is trying to give her a clean shot at taking back or winning the White House, and giving her the opportunity to walk away from the positions that she holds dear. And so this fight is a fight about the direction of the country. And we got to win it on November 5th, and we've got to make sure we hold Kamala Harris and Bob Casey accountable for a set of liberal positions that have not only been implemented in the last administration, but what will be even more liberal and more radical in the next administration, in her own words. And that's the challenge, and that's the fight we're in.
So on that ad that you put out, Dave McCormick, running for Senate in Pennsylvania, that ad was perfect, was brilliant. Everyone sharing it said, this is the way, Republicans. And you put out two, I believe, of the same format, which is nothing but their own words.
That's right.
It's 60 seconds of Kamala Harris talking. That's it.
That's right.
It speaks for itself.
That's right.
What was your role in that? How did that whole ad came about? Because it's perfect and it is the way.
You know, I wish I could take more credit. We have an incredible team. We have a group of folks and a young man that began to put that together with the help of the team, and they presented it to me, and I said, hey, it looks great. We posted it. It's an internal team. We posted it at 5:00 that day, and we took the team to the Pirates game. And by 8:00, somebody leaned over and said, we got 800,000 downloads. And the thing that I will take credit for is that's the kind of campaign I want to run. I don't think Pennsylvanians or the American people want to spend a whole lot of time talking about attacks on individuals. I think we have what's clear in Kamala Harris, a record, and what's clear in Bob Casey, a record that is out of step with Pennsylvania. And I want to make sure that we continue to just reinforce that over and over again, and let Pennsylvanians choose. If that's the direction they want to take the country and Pennsylvania, then people should vote for that. But I don't think that's what Pennsylvanians want. And this is the kind of campaign that I think is resonating with people, because you can't walk away from your own words over and over again.